Actively market your services post-COVID, part 2, I guess. So joining me on the call again today is the wonderful Kat Morgan from BOMA, marketing based over. Morning, Kat. How are you? Or good afternoon, I should say.
Yes, afternoon. Well, thank you. And you?
I'm not too bad. The sun is shining, which is great. Summer is slowly starting to be upon us, and I guess having not really spent much of summer last year outdoors due to the obviously the terrible bushfires and stuff all around the country, I'm hoping this year we can actually get to enjoy a little bit of it, to be honest.
Hope so.
Yeah. How are things over your way at the moment?
Great, thank you. Yep, it's we're good. It's I'm in Auckland and it's raining today, which is awesome because we've had a bit of a record drought since last summer, and it's looking like it's going to be the same. So, but yeah, hey, Stu, I'm just having trouble starting my camera. If you've got control at your end, turn me on when you get a chance.
I should be able to make you co-host. I think if making you a co-host should fix it. Apologies, everybody, for the teething issues.
Anyway, fabulous.
So look, thank you to everybody joining us. Look, we are going to try and keep this as short as possible. We appreciate it's quite busy, a busy time of month and year for everybody, but we do have a lot of valuable information we want to share, some really exciting stuff also to come out of the woodwork, especially from our side at the moment, which I think, based on the conversation we're having today and we have been having for a while, I think it's super relevant. So I guess without further ado, a little bit of an agenda. Whoops, sorry, I'm having a nightmare with my mouse this morning. A little bit of an agenda for you all, just so you kind of get to grips with kind of what we are going to go over, and you know, a little bit of housekeeping. I don't think anybody can ask live questions. You guys will be listening to myself and Kat have the discussion today, but we obviously would strongly encourage interaction. So if you have questions as they crop up, as we move through the slides, as we share the insights throughout the call or throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate to shoot the questions across. Whether me or Kat are talking at that point, the other one of us can be obviously looking through any questions that do crop up. So please, any questions, they are of course welcome. So the first thing we'll go over today will be, you know, what your clients want to cover or post-COVID, and there's been some real good or some interesting research we've been able to get our hands on to, I guess, emphasize some of the points. Would you agree, Kat?
Indeed, yeah, and it's interesting to see what's changed from before COVID to now.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll probably continue to change. You know, I feel like these changes, we're at the start. People are still having to adapt. You know, Melbourne, or I guess the whole of Victoria in Australia, has now gone back into lockdown even further and more extension. So being adaptable and agile and really understanding what the market is demanding of you to continue supporting your clients is crucial. So we'll go into that in some more detail. We will also touch on the changing landscape of marketing in general, which, you know, I think is this transfer of landscape has kind of been happening anyway, but I think this year is almost certainly accelerated you know, that change. Then we'll move into some enhanced visibility and decision making, and this will come part and parcel of the services that you may start to look to introduce or have always wanted to introduce, and then we'll kind of finish off with what we see the rest of this year looking like, and a view to I guess 2021 and beyond. So I hope that all makes sense. I believe, Kat, you are first up.
Indeed I am. Thanks, Stu. So yeah, one of our partners, Practice Web, working in conjunction with Insight 101, they're both UK businesses, but regularly conduct surveys with regards to the accounting industry. And even though this research came out of the UK, I think undoubtedly it's really relevant and applies very much to our part of the world as well. So these guys did a bit of survey, and it was really around how small businesses feel that their accountants have performed sort of during an early stage post-COVID-19 crisis. And what really came to light was the importance of communication. And that sense of connection that really kind of leads to trust and loyalty. Now, interestingly, so communication skills was the #1 response. Pre-COVID, the #1 skill, I guess you could say, that small businesses wanted from their accountants was that specialist knowledge. So it's really interesting to see that that's sort of now dropped to third, and those real, I guess you could almost say soft skills have risen to the top. And so, you know, the research actually really showed as well that accounting firms are mostly getting this right, which is really awesome to see. Their clients have a renewed sense of loyalty, and more than a third of those surveyed now feel more likely to recommend their accountant to others. So that's just so great to see that for the most part, most people are doing the right thing. Now, there were some areas that were highlighted for improvement as well. So, you know, how good were you, for example, at picking up the phone and finding time to talk to your clients? Only a third of those surveyed said that their accountants had called them rather than relying on email. So I think people are really looking for that human touch, that knowing that there's something there that's a little bit personal for them, rather than, I guess, that sort of communication or that impersonal communication en masse. Now, there's a really fine line here because realistically, if there's one thing I know, is that you guys are all short on time, and having the time to do a one-on-one phone call with every client is not realistic. But there's ways to make that en masse communication feel a little bit more personal, whether that's a dear Stuart in the start of your email, and sending comms to each client that's really relevant to them and their business. So there's definitely some tricks you can do, but ultimately, yeah, what your clients are looking for is that real human touch. Next slide, please, Stu. Move on to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry, you on there? Oh, beg your pardon, back one. My apologies, thank you. So ultimately, out of that research, there's really 4 areas that we recommend that you go away, assess, reflect, and take action on. So consider your whole customer experience and whether it's up to scratch. Does it meet the expectations of your clients and prospects? And so it needs to be that full end-to-end buyer journey and onto reflection. And a good place to even start with that is your firm's proposition. So is it really compelling enough, and does it speak to your clients' expectations? Something that is worthwhile looking at is, does your proposition represent like our new normal? For example, at BOMA, we all sat down and had quite a few planning sessions looking at our entire value proposition, really sort of mid-COVID, because it might be, I mean, I've used this example a few times, but if the messaging across your website is really about growth, and it might not be appropriate right now when it could be that the majority of your clients are really just all about survival. They're miles away from thinking about growth. So consider your all of your messaging from your website really being the key place where people, prospects will go to research you, is ensure that the messaging there reflects our current situation. So making sure that people see that you might get them, not that you've got this great list of services, but that you might understand them and their business. That's really with that communication that they're looking for. They want that empathy. So that's a really kind of key thing to review your messaging and make sure it has that empathetic voice. Now, obviously that, you know, that research with how important communication is considering how you're communicating with your clients and prospects, what you're communicating, in other words, what's your messaging around, and are you communicating enough? Also consider if you're using the right channels. So things to consider are, I guess, like, who are your clients? Excuse me. Who are your clients and how would they prefer to hear from you? So ultimately, if you're not sure yet, you can test and analyze. In other words, check your email open rates and click-through rates, or it might be the engagement on your social media pages. How many likes and shares and things is each post getting? That takes time to test and refine. So you know what, there's nothing wrong with asking your clients, you know, hey, the messages that we're sending to you, are you liking the way that we're providing that information? Is it the right information for you? I think people really appreciate being asked that information if you just want to, I guess, do some checking and get some feedback from your clients.
I mean, to that point, if I can just jump in there, Kat, you know, as you know, app providers or app partners of Xero, you know, with all of the accountants, you know, I know for Futurely, we are constantly asking for feedback, whether it's good or bad or criticism or, you know, actually a job well done message. It doesn't matter. The point is, we know it's constructive. We know it's not supposed to kind of upset us. We want to make sure that we're doing the best thing we can for our target audience, which is all of the people on the call today. You know, so practicing kind of, you know, having that same opportunity, but with your customers, if you're not doing so already, it will not only strengthen the relationship with them, because you're giving them the opportunity to help create the outcome which they desire, but also for you, it helps you kind of learn, potentially start to segment your customers, because construction and tradies might be very, very different to people who run e-commerce and you know, retail front of shop businesses. And being able to kind of adjust the messaging or the language is going to make life easier and probably a little bit more successful for you long term when you're looking to, you know, eventually get back to growing certain service lines, or just supporting your clients, I guess, more thoroughly.
Good point. Yeah, and a surveys, you know, SurveyMonkey, it's a really great way to do that. One really great question that's worthwhile asking. So BOMA, we survey our users around once a year. And so you want to make it a really great survey and make sure that you really research the questions you ask to empower you in the decisions that you make going forward. And a question that we kind of popped in at the last minute, which actually turned out to be one of our best questions, is we chucked in there, it would be amazing, or finish this sentence, it would be amazing if BOMA ... And we just kind of wanted to see, instead of saying, hey, what features would you like added next? Or in your case, it might be, what do you wish that we could do for you? You could say, you know, phrase it in that way. It just makes people go, kind of think blue sky thinking, rather than something that might be just little and iterative. It could be, it encourages them to sort of think a bit bigger. And so there's a great question I recommend you add. It would be amazing if such and such.
I mean, it's an open-ended question, isn't it? It's not a preloaded question.
Quite right.
You want someone just to give you whatever rolls off their tongue, essentially.
I mean, we considered even giving them a list of possible features that we're considering building next and getting them to effectively vote for them. But that's dangerous, because then if you decide not to build that feature, they might get upset. So we just sort of made it as open-ended as we possibly could. And it's incredible. Obviously, the more open-ended that your questions are, the more potentially valuable feedback that you'll get.
100%.
Okay, next slide, please, Stu. Oh, you're on there already. Lovely. So where to kind of next? Really, the educational marketing is one of the best ways right now to communicate with your clients and prospects. And that was both mid-COVID and still post-COVID. And as you alluded, Stuart, obviously different regions and different countries and different towns are in different stages of sort of lockdown and recovery. And I imagine that's going to be a little bit fluid for a while longer yet. So really educational marketing is something that's working really well at the moment. Small businesses are obviously super hungry for information, and the more proactive that you can be could be the difference in saving someone's business. So, and a really great way to think of it is that educational marketing, it's not selling, it's more helping your clients proactively. So it's good for everybody. So imagine a scenario, you might identify a number of your clients who are experiencing issues with cash flow. Right now, I mean, there's a good chance that's pretty much everyone. So why not get proactive and create some educational content around cash flow management, or perhaps tips to get paid faster? So, I mean, there's plenty of resources in BOMA, as an example, that you can share out on these topics via social media and email. You can also use the content to create blogs on your website, and then you could turn that content from your blog into a webinar. So consider that you might take the time to create a bit of content or educational content, but you can use it in multiple ways. And that's really how you can get the best, what's the word I'm looking for, effect for your marketing, is repurposing that content. So you're really sharing one message out in multiple ways. So webinars really are one of the best lead generation tools available to you right now. We're finding that BOMA users, for example, who are doing webinars, sometimes as often every 2 weeks, are actually picking up so many new clients that they're really struggling with the workload at the moment. I mean, that's a good problem to have. But yeah, if prospecting for new leads is a focus for your firm right now, then webinars are a really great way to pick up some new prospects. I mean, the reason is that they're working is that even if people can meet in person right now, many are not really that keen to. They just don't want to take that risk of face-to-face meetings. So webinars are a really great way to share content en masse. So imagine if we use that cash flow management example, it might be that you create a blog post and you can use some content in BOMA to do that. Then take that topic and turn it into a webinar. Now, you don't have to do a 45-minute or 60-minute webinar. 20 minutes can also be really effective, so that you can really sort of take a topic, slice and dice it, answer commonly asked questions. You know, your email inbox is a really great resource for webinar topics as well. And then just kind of, hey, share that information. Now, post-webinar, you can take snippets of that recording, share it on social media. You can also use webinars as a great source for lead gen even after the webinar, because you can put the recording on your website and then use it as what's known as a lead magnet. So in other words, people have to leave their email address and name before they can access the download. So you get a prospect added to your email database. So really easy ways of tips and tricks to just reuse content in different ways and prospect for new leads really easily. Now you can also run Facebook Live. So another great tool sort of in this current lockdown situation is a Facebook community group. It might be a closed group, which is just for you and your clients. Then you can do little live videos in that Facebook group. And it might just be, sometimes if nothing wrong with doing a Facebook Live that's 3 to 5 minutes. So it might just be simply, hey, here's an extension of JobKeeper. This is what it means for you. And that's it. They can be short and sweet. You don't have to sort of spend 2 weeks preparing and getting your slide deck done. You can share this content in snippets.
I think that's the key.
And then,
of
course,
with some of the, for instance, up there, Kat, but you know, with some of the information, the changing landscape of the ATO's decisions, or you know, the government over in New Zealand, the decisions around JobKeeper and all the changes. There's so many updates that are happening all the time. As you said, state to state, location to location, there are small differences. So having a short video with some bullet points, 2 or 3 minutes long, I think, as you said, it reconnects that human element of the contact and the communication piece. Whilst you maybe can't see your clients and visit them face to face or have them come into the office, you know, you still can have that element of human touch because it's live. You know, you can promote it and have your clients interact with you. And you may go industry vertical again, just to keep it nice and succinct, and say this is specifically for my clients in this specific sector. But the invitation may then also suggest, hey, do you have friends who run similar businesses in this space who would potentially be interested to hear what I have to say? And again, that is really soft, really organic way for you to first and foremost, support your clients, because ultimately I think this is the priority number one, is to be supportive and to really help mitigate risk and loss of business. But secondly, if you are able to use that to grow your reach and to attract or, you know, build relationships with new businesses, then ultimately that for you is as you said, it's that return on investment. It's money or time well spent to protect your clients and also potentially generate additional business for you maybe further on down the line as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're being proactive, you're showing your expertise, you're providing some real value. And ultimately, yeah, as you guys know, that's what leads to more referrals. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen for a second. I'll just take over from you there, Stuart. So in BOMA, we have, for those of you not familiar with BOMA, it's a marketing app for accountants, and we have a content library. So if you're not sure about what should I say, what should I talk about right now that's going to provide that sort of education and value to my clients, here you've got a library of around 400 potential topics to chat through. So we talked about cash flow, so I'm just going to pop in that search in the term there, and here you can see quite a few articles that have got some reference to cash flow in them. Now I can take, let's use this article here, for example. I can take it out and share it to social media and email in just a few minutes by clicking deliver this content and then name my campaign and start. Now the hard work's been done for you. Here's my social post. I can customize any of the content, change up the images, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip through. The hard work's been done for you. The content's here, whether you want to use this article on your website as a blog post, or whether you're just going to share it out to your social media channels and as an email, as I am here. The hard work's been done for you. All you need to do is customize it and share it away. So here's a little preview, for example, of my Facebook post. This one's got quite a little short text, but if you want to do more of an intro, you can customize that. When it comes to email, we talked about a little bit about personalization. Here, for example, you can choose to deliver an email to everybody in your database, or you might deliver it to a specific segment. So for example, if you've got something that's really specifically going to be focused for your tradies, send it just to them. That's really when email marketing is powerful, when you're sending content to each of your contacts, it's really relevant to them and their business. Then that sort of, while you're sending it en masse, so to speak, it's still really customized for the audience. Now in BOMA, we also provide templates, so your emails look slick and professional. You just need to upload your logo and choose your brand colors, and you've got a few different options in the email template. Now I'm going through here quite fast, but there's lots of personalization that you can do if you wish. We've got options in the email format for sending a newsletter section, and you can add multiple articles to create a newsletter structure, or you can send a longer form version, whether you just want to deliver the entire content here, as you can see. So lots of options there. I'll just save and close out of the email editor. And then before you send an email to the masses, you can send a test email to yourself, and then when you're ready, schedule the delivery. So in that case, I chose an article about cash flow. I customized it for social media and email, and now I can choose if I want to deliver that immediately or schedule it for a time in the future that better suits me and my clients. So, you know, educational marketing doesn't have to be hard. It's about finding the right tools and then customizing it for your business. So you can take over and share the slides again now, Stu, when you're ready.
One question I do have, which I'm sure there's potentially people here who are also keen to know the answer to this as well. Does BOMA act as a CRM? So does it have the ability to house or host the actual contact detail, or does it require an integration with? Yeah,
there's a couple of things. Great question. We do integrate with Xero HQ. So we'll pull your Xero active client contact data into BOMA every 24 hours. Otherwise, if you've got clients, prospects, for example, who might not be on Xero, or people on other software, etc., you can import them into BOMA's database via a CSV. So yeah, if you're using BOMA, you might have previously used MailChimp, or maybe you're just using your email client to deliver out newsletters. You don't need to do that anymore. It's all here in BOMA. And of course, we mentioned it as well about finding out what your clients want to hear from you and how. All of the analytics are all here in one place as well. So you can sort of see what social posts, what type of content is your audience most likely engaging with, and what type of emails are you getting the highest click-through or open rate and click-through on. So that's really what it's all about is, a lot of people potentially don't take the time to sort of analyze their marketing, but ultimately the benefit of that is that it educates you on what your clients really want to hear from. So they're much more likely to keep engaging with your content when you're sharing things that are of interest to them.
Yeah, and I think, makes the whole process, as you said, it's all in one location. So not only can you do your marketing, you can generate and create your content and then post out your newsletters or webinar invitations or whatever, but then also being able to track it in the same location. And the fact that it feeds in data from Xero just means that there's no double handling of data, there's no manual uploads. And as you said, there's already 400 plus sets of content or previous posts to help people get started.
You got it. Yeah, marketing doesn't have to be time consuming and scary. That's what we're for. We can totally help you.
Awesome. Well, look, certainly a lot to a lot there to kind of take action with. I think the big one at the moment, as you said, community groups. I think they are an incredibly not untapped resource, because I do know there are obviously lots of community groups, and anyone here who's a Xero partner will already be in the Xero app mastermind groups. But I would start to think outside the box if you haven't done so already. Look at your portfolio, and if you can segment it to the different verticals, you may find you're heavily weighted towards one vertical more so than others. And you could potentially use that then as, well, I have more clients in this industry, so maybe I'll prioritize my research and educational time to this larger portfolio or larger section of my portfolio first. And that gives you the opportunity to learn, test, try new things, and then ultimately try and replicate that across other sectors or other industry verticals that are going to be suffering or kind of need that extra level of support at the moment.
Yeah, really great tip. Yeah, it's widen your network and use social media as, I guess, research.
Yeah. And it's one thing, again, from my side of the fence, having been at Future for a number of years, and it's often always about trying to solve a problem for somebody else more so than trying a problem for yourself. And I think if you do that internal reflection on your firm, where you're at, what's working well for you, what's not, and where would you like to be, and ultimately what would you like to be able to change for the better, and then kind of put that same ethos into how do you then translate that into helping the clients that you manage. But the internal reflection is absolutely super important as well, to make sure that you're not wasting time. Now, when we move forward, I guess this, I'm really excited to continue this on. Now, as you've touched on it once already, Kat, in that, cash flow or not having enough cash or bad cash flow management or uncertainty on future cash flow trajectory is, if not the most, I guess, common question or concern, I would say, at the moment for the majority of businesses. Now, not all businesses have been detrimentally impacted by COVID. So I think this really will relate to everybody else who isn't currently having fires burning in areas of the business that they weren't maybe there before. But what I've got on screen for you here is a bit of an analogy to really help you understand the thought process around what I'm then going to lead into. And if you'll think about your personal circumstances, friends, family, anyone who's been to a doctor, or the standard patient and doctor relationship, typically the patient will go to the practice, describe a problem or an ailment, something which they feel is a bit uncomfortable or maybe wasn't there before. The doctor or the health professional or the nurse, somebody will diagnose that problem through any means necessary. I recently had an MRI on my back to expose the fact that I have a disc bulge. I was then told some remedial stuff to do to try and fix it, a mixture of exercises, some medication, and some other treatments, acupuncture, so on and so forth. And it's a very simple, I went there with a problem. I trust the professional to be able to give me their opinion. They did some tests. We figured out what the issue was. I've then gone and taken their advice, and I haven't questioned it. And I've gone to follow up with all the things that they did suggest to help me try and fix the fact that my back is in a bit of pain. And I feel like the same trust and relationship, especially considering the research that you've done, or that has been done, you know, which is showing that SMEs now, they value the communication more so than pretty much everything else at the moment. They really need that strong, competent, confident levels of communication to help them make better decisions, or, you know, to figure out what to do next in this survival kind of landscape that we're in. And SMEs will trust accountants and advisors and bookkeepers and CFOs in the same vein, as long as there is that air of confidence, and, you know, you kind of know what it is that you're prescribing. And I think the prescription word there is the key. Now at Futurely, you may or may not have known that we've recently released a new forecasting app. We have made a huge big deal about it, but of course there's a lot of other stuff going on in the world, so I appreciate if you haven't seen it yet, that's perfectly okay. And I think why this is incredibly timely is because decisions need to be made very quick at the moment. You know, businesses, they cannot wait weeks and weeks to be able to get accessibility to relevant and reconciled and up-to-date data to make decisions. You know, that luxury, I guess, is maybe not what it used to be anymore. The idea behind that would be to identify looming problems, or to be able to have some foresight into the future to identify a problem, and then the advice or the guidance of somebody like yourself, whether you're the bookkeeper in and out of those books day in, day out, whether you're the accountant and the trusted advisor, or whether you're a tax professional. There are going to be questions that need to be answered, and a lot of it is going to be about the future health or trajectory of the businesses that you consult with. And ultimately, that is exactly what the Predict engine has been designed to help make quicker and easier for you all to do. Now, my reference back to the prescriptive way that you could potentially help your clients with better cash flow management and better visibility to ultimately help create better decision-making opportunities. That is how we actually envisage Predict working in the landscape. And I will come back to that in a little bit more detail to kind of further explain what I mean. But what I would like to do is very, very quickly just show you Predict in working environment, just so you can get a bit of a glimpse of what it is that Predict actually does. And if there's any questions that crop up, either during the call or afterwards, then I'll be more than happy to answer those for you as well. So initially, you know, we have had a product in market for 5 years, as you all have probably seen or heard or used before. Very, very much accounting focused, reporting, management accounts, KPI analysis, performance indicators, integrated cash flows, business planning scenarios. There's a huge amount of stuff you can do in the existing product. But what we've found is the penetration rate was typically the higher percentage of a firm's portfolio. That higher percentage would typically be higher paying fees, maybe businesses who have boards or multiple stakeholders where they all need to receive the information to look at it, you know, regularly to ensure that performance of the business is as expected, so on and so forth. But the bigger 80, 90, 70% of portfolios, depending on the structure, typically is more a reactive service that the accountant or bookkeeper is able to provide, just because time is obviously everyone's biggest challenge. Now, having access to clean data is one of the first challenges that most people face. And I guess coming back to your point on education, Kat, there is still a huge lack of education to an SME or business owners around the importance of having clean and reconciled books. And there's plenty of tools out there to help make that process more efficient and more accurate. But once you have got clean and accurate data, or at least data that you are confident you can rely on, this is really where Predict will take your decision-making opportunity and the speed in which you can provide cash flow visibility to your clients tenfold, more so than any other tool that's currently available in the cloud at the moment. Now, essentially what it's doing for your SMEs, and this is a tool that your clients could use every day. They do not need to, it's not a tool that is required you guys set it up for them or for you guys to manage. You could essentially prescribe, same way the doctor would prescribe medication for an illness or ailment. You could just prescribe your clients to use this tool because A, it gives them visibility whenever they need it, and B, there's not as much time or investment from your side in order to maintain the products, keep the numbers up to date, but you will absolutely have the chance to collaborate and support them in what the system is showing. So the main area of the tool, of course, is this predicted cash line. Now, the green is, of course, you've got positive cash flow. The red is indicating that you've gone cash flow negative. And you can see on the home screen for this particular data set, you can drag as far forward as you want. Now, predicted cash is incredibly complex. It's not as simple as just looking at what's in the bank and what you're owed. There's P&L impacts, there's different treatments of cash flow depending on the way that your clients or customers generate revenue for themselves. There's also balance sheet compliance and asset and liability movements, which also will have a big impact on the actual liquid cash that's available for that business. And the aim of this is to educate your clients not only on each of those nuances and individualities, but also give them very easily and very quickly a short to medium to long-term view of their business's future. Now, I won't go into too much detail here because this certainly isn't a product demo, but what I would like you to all to consider is the speed in which that you could currently generate a cash flow forecast for your client and then revise it tomorrow and then revise it the day after. Incredibly large amounts of time would be required to do that at scale. Predict potentially is that prescriptive tool to help make that process way easier to manage, way easier to scale, but most importantly, more valuable decision-making access so that your clients can make those decisions with your support. Now, there are elements of more accounting-focused reports. There is a three-way modeling component. It does have a GST prediction calculator, which will also predict how much cash will be available to your clients if they make the payment on time. And those time settings can all be customized to the specific client themselves. So you can really make this an accurate reflection of how your clients treat their taxation and GST. But I think being able to provide your client future visibility on upcoming compliance legislation and then talk around the available cash at the bank or left in the bank if they were to make those payments and how that potentially is going to impact the rest of the business's operational opportunity. So hugely valuable, incredibly quick. Think of this as a bit of a sat nav between your meetings with your clients where you review the historicals and you're able to talk about the future and things that they need to be wary of, whether it's cost management or generating new traffic and leads for themselves, stuff that Kat has already touched on for you today. In between those meetings, Predict potentially can be the glue to hold that all together. And if anything crops up or as things change, bearing in mind we sync with Xero twice a day, you will be able to kind of make decisions using the data that Predict is able to surface for you. So if you haven't looked at it in any further detail, I would encourage you to do so. But I think coming back to what we were talking about, being prescriptive, being able to being confident with your client, looking to try and help them grow and provide clearer visibility and a view to the future, which is ultimately where most people are struggling at the moment, then I implore you to have a look at Predict. Now, as a bit of a high-level summary of what you've got, it's the only indirect and direct forecasting tool available in the market. So it not only looks at the accruals basis, but the cash basis, different ways that you can collect and spend money. It updates twice a day with Xero and QuickBooks Online, so it's incredibly accurate. You get the snapshot view, which was the home screen, and then you also get the three-way financials for more financing activities and more accounting-focused reports. It is able to analyze customer and supplier behavioral patterns as they change. So if you have clients who raise lots of invoices and pay lots of bills, how quickly or slowly are those customers paying those invoices, not using due dates? We all know due dates are irrelevant these days. So actually using aggregated data on historicals to create an assumption or behavioral pattern or an indicator of when that customer is likely to pay your customers. So it's doing a lot of analysis, which typically would be done manually. And then you get predictive insights across the whole chart of accounts. Futrli is smart enough to create a prediction for every single nominal code in a single chart of accounts based on historical data. But ultimately, you can override that if you feel like you need to. And of course, then the final kicker there is the GST prediction tool, which I think most people is going to be the most stressful time of year at the moment for most people, especially if their business has been detrimentally impacted by COVID and the downturn in trade and whatnot. So
a great tool to be able to be a great tool, Stu, to be able to provide some of that proactive content for your marketing as well. You know, if
Correct.
you've identified, as I mentioned, a few of your clients that are struggling with getting paid on time, there's a great topic for some educational marketing.
100%, 100%. And, you know, again, this is kind of could come across as a shameless plug for our new product. Kind of is, to be honest. You know, I'm not going to hide behind that. We obviously would love to showcase the product, but if you actually think about the current state of the economy and the problems that people face, cash flow, supporting their overhead costs to make sure that they've got enough money to pay themselves and their staff, and, you know, their overheads and their operational costs. But then also, can they continue to generate revenue? Is that looking like it's going to, you know, disappear? Whilst I am not in the UK have now gone back into lockdown, but in different stages in different areas of the country. And for most of the mid-tier businesses, they're probably not going to recover because of this new legislation. And a tool like this will help you have that visibility, especially if you have money in the bank or your customers do have money, but it's a finite resource and they're not sure when it's going to run out. Planning for the next 6 to 12 months is going to be crucial for the survival of some of those. And this is all going to play part and parcel in that educational piece of what tools are out there, what process change needs to be made, and really how can you continue to help your clients over and above the support that you're already giving them. And the view to the future is certainly going to be the most challenging for everybody. So look, I want to kind of leave it at there. I have seen a question come through, so I may just address that now while we are on the topic. I can't actually see the question. Can you
the question is from Lynn. I looked at Future earlier, but it seemed to be mainly reports. Is Predict part of it or separate?
Good question. I'm not sure. Sorry, I can't see who asked that, but thank you for your question. So you are right. It's a brand new product. Futurely Advisor, very much reporting and analysis and visualized metrics, I guess, over and above what you get out of the accounting software. Predict is very much it's a prediction tool. It doesn't do any reports. You can't currently take any data offline yet. Now that will change, but it's about the future. You know, if you look at where my cursor is on the screen here, this screenshot which I took last week in prep for today's call, those balances are as at yesterday, and then this future prediction, this number is where your client's bank balance will likely be at the end of the month. And then you can drill into the different, you know, what's actually driving the bank balance to go from 6.5 grand to 3 grand in the next 20 days. What's the breakdown of that? And that's ultimately what the Predict engine will help you surface, discuss with your clients, and then ultimately, you know, try and help see if that's actually enough money or not, you know.
Another question, Stu, what's the cost of Predict per client, and do accountants get Predict for free? That's from Nicole Haig.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. So at the moment, the market value for Predict is $99 or 90, one of the two. Now it's built in US. The reason it's built in US, not in NZ or AUD, is we wanted to get it out. And the dilemma we had internally was, do we build all these different payment gateways for different currencies, or do we actually add in all the features that people need to make the product viable, you know, in order for us to launch it as quickly as possible? The decision was made to just build it. So it is built in US. It's certainly something you need to consider, of course, with, you know, the change in foreign exchange rates. But to answer your question, that's on our website for individual businesses. For accountants, we have an extended discount for everybody on the call today. It's 50% discounted for 12 months. And that would be whether you buy 1 or 1,000 licenses, doesn't matter. So the cost for you to set it up for your clients is $49.50. Again in US. So you're looking around the same cost of zero, roughly about 60 New Zealand, 65 New Zealand dollars a month. But as I said, it's a prescriptive tool. We don't have packages for accountants where if you want to buy 20 licenses, you have to commit to paying us $600 up front. You know, if you only have 3 clients now who are at real bad risk, turn it on for them, tell them about it, educate them, show them, set up a free trial, go through the process of communicating with them, you know, every couple of days to make sure that they're familiar with it, they know what they're doing. And at that point, then you will learn where it works, the value of it, how to position it with other clients. We would rather support you and grow small and steady rather than trying to overload you with, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 licenses and then expect you to fill them yourself. You know, because it's not a sustainable business model. And I think we have learned from our current product we've had in market that model doesn't necessarily always work for everybody. So it's a lot more adaptable for you guys to manage costs.
Nice. Another question. So if you use Predict, would you not need to prepare budgets or forecasts in your other products? And then there's a follow-up question, but answer that one first.
It's a very good question. The two products don't talk to each other at the moment, and we obviously do have clients who use Futurely Advisor who have had similar questions. I build a budget, I want to bring it into Predict. To me, it makes no sense to repeat the process, which I understand completely. But the question I would ask, or the challenge I would throw back to that is, for reporting purposes, you're typically doing that every month, every quarter, every second month, or every half year, or annually. What happens in between? What visibility is being given to anybody? How is your budget being changed to reflect what's ever changing day to day? And typically there's a bit of a review once a month, but not a lot of changes, time to time. Predict, it's a different value proposition. So you still might need to do reports. You would potentially use our other product, Futurely Advisor, for that management accounts piece. You may just refer back to what's in Xero. This is about daily updated, real-time visibility on that cash position. And that cash position may not agree with the original budgets that's been set at the start of the year. So, I think the two products do very different things, but if you do need to do reports, to answer your question in a really long-winded way, you could either use Futurely Advisor. We will eventually have Google Export, so that work is currently being done at the moment. So it might not be a pretty looking branded report, but if you need to take this data offline for any reason, you will soon be able to do that. But for proper reporting and analysis, Futurely Advisor is the product that you would need for that.
And I guess similar to in the export way, so can you print off the reports and Predict to be able to send them to the bank, for example?
Not yet. So again, very common question we've had obviously since launch. So you're not unique in that, but it will be coming eventually. The first thing we will do, because we can do it the quickest, is a Google export. So you can take the data to a Google Sheet. The reason we've done Google Sheet and not a spread like an Excel is Google Sheets will allow us to have input integrations as well as output. So you may have a better opportunity to have complex formulas which drive the numbers into your forecast. Might be easier to do that in a spreadsheet versus doing it in the tool itself. So Google first. Long term, we will have a visualizer or a reporting function, but that will be probably 2021.
Yeah. What about linking to MYOB products or perhaps Zapier?
So again, good questions. Probably out of my depth, in all honesty. The reason we haven't gone MYOB live yet is just because I believe MYOB are trying to change things themselves. They're looking at potentially going full MyOB Essentials over the next couple of years, I understand. It just wasn't done from the beginning. So it may happen, we will have an open API by next year. So anybody can develop against us and extract data, at their cost, of course, in terms of the build. But Xero and QuickBooks were just quicker and easier for us to get started and get it out the door. But look, MyOB certainly is something we will consider. But yeah, to be honest, it's not necessarily my remit.
One more question. If you maintain Predict on behalf of your client, how do you provide your clients with access to it? Or do you need multiple licenses?
No. So the reason we have the discounted price off the table, so it's not advertised anywhere for accountants, because ultimately any decision your client makes is probably going to need your rubber stamping anyway, because there are going to be compliance things to consider or other related incidents that come off the back of whatever decision they make. So the way that we've positioned it is that we would ultimately encourage you guys to manage and to own the product for them. Now, whether they pay you and you on charge, or whether you wear it as a cost of your subscription, or whether you wrap it into your pricing, all of that is up to you to consider, I guess. But you can then add anybody in, and there's no extra charge for having 100 people access the same single ledger. All you're priced on is the actual connection to a financial set of data. So as a practitioner, bookkeeper, accountant, BCFO, you can manage who is in there, what they can see, and you will ultimately get a dashboard on how often your clients are logging in as well. One of the points that was made earlier, slightly off topic, but one of the points made earlier about Kat, one of the things you shared within BOMA was 5 simple tips to improve cash flow. And one of those things was actually about regular bookkeeping. It was the first bullet point in that list on the Xero blog. We are working out, and we're just about to finalize an integration. So not only when your clients log in to Predict can they see their numbers, but it will flag if there's unreconciled transactions. Because part of having the ability to make decisions, you need clean data and reconciled data. And if that is still a problem for you or your clients, we've got to highlight it. We've got to show it as an important part of this process. So having that ability to add in your users or clients and have these messages pop up as and when they're relevant is going to continue that level of education, but also provide that extra value in trying to solve that problem.
Nice. Well, thanks for all your questions, everyone. We've got a few more minutes while we just sort of wrap up. Please pop them in now, otherwise you can come back to us afterwards. But yeah, so, what does sort of the future look like as far as, we're concerned? I think it's pretty clear that right now many businesses have had to adapt pretty quickly or face, death. And, there's plenty that are, undergone that real substantial transformation. And I think, hospitality being one, those that, for example, moved really quickly to offer an online delivery service. When it comes to marketing, traditional marketing really no longer works. People are just not keen to meet in person, whether that's events or educational, classroom style seminars. Those are really sort of out the window, and not just now, but potentially even sort of going forward. So we'll see sort of further digitalization, people doing more online, because ultimately, the new business as usual is that there's more remote working. People are just preferring to work from home, whether part-time or full-time. That means they're spending more time online. And so delivering content via digital methods is really the only way forward. So blogs, webinars, as we've mentioned, and social media are really even more important and will continue to be so in the sort of coming months.
Yeah, and a continuation on that, I've put in here digital transformation 2.0. The reason I say that, the digital transformation isn't new. It's been going for as long as Xero's been going, really, in the accounting space. They're the ones that kind of really pioneered it in this side of the world anyway, pioneered that digital adoption, transformation, and now they have an app marketplace of 800 plus apps, and we're two of them. So accounting isn't about being an app specialist and knowing about every product out there to solve all these problems, but you definitely do need to have a level of knowledge across probably the main facets that do cover the majority of your customers' problems. So the digital transformation 2.0, my reference to that point really is that this is not going anywhere. It's only going to get more intense and more thorough. And the expectation, which is, client point number 4, is that SMEs are now becoming more aware of these products themselves because they're doing the research for themselves. And what we don't want to see happen is for accountants for small businesses to need or want to avoid their accountant, to find these answers. And it comes back to that marketing services and being proactive and just having your finger on the pulse as best as you can, whilst you're kind of juggling and managing, obviously, some of the more compliance orientated requirements that you have to do. So the 2020 and beyond, and this transformation and the expectation on delivery of services, spend time or allocate the time to research on the products that are available. But remember, you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know that product inside out before you're confident enough to talk to your clients about potentially trying it. They will take your advice, same way that a patient would take advice or direction on a particular drug that they're able to take to fix a problem. Think of some of the tools that you have at your disposal, or the knowledge of the tools that you know about. Think of your relationship with them in the same vein. You're more than happy to invest the time with your client to try and solve some problems, but they need to meet you halfway, and ultimately it's a more scalable and I guess less finance heavy way of finding solutions to particular problems that can be solved, but in a way which is scalable and cost effective, because at the moment time is the most invaluable resource that people have, and no one has enough of it. So try and avoid spending too much time invest in stuff that probably doesn't necessarily need as much effort initially to kind of get right. And that's it. I think so. Thank you everyone for your questions and for sticking with us. You know, I'm sure there's some good takeaways from in there. And if you have any questions, now would be a really nice, neat way to share those. Or if you'd be more comfortable to connect with us offline, individually or collectively, then here are our respective contact details. For you to ask those questions, but we would encourage, if you have any questions and you're comfortable to share with them or ask them, then please do before we conclude.
And we will send you a follow-up email as well with our details if you don't capture them now, or something comes to you as soon as you leave the webinar. Super happy to help afterwards. And hey, it doesn't even have to be on BOMA or virtually. If you just want to talk to me about marketing, if you've just got a burning question, please sing out.
Absolutely. You know, we're here to help. We're also, you know, small to medium businesses ourselves. So, you know, some of these problems we face ourselves, you know, so we
that's for sure.
You know, and we do try and stay as up to speed as possible within reason. But we know it can be difficult, and that's why the community groups and, you know, working together, although we do very different things, there's a very consistent message in, you know, so, you know, talking to your peers, talking to us, work related or not, you know, we're always open to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, I don't think many questions are going to come through by the looks of it. I can see some people dropping off. So I think we will conclude there, Kat. Thank you again so much for your valuable insights. And, you know, I really appreciate your time again for joining us. Just seen a question come through there. I'm not sure what it says.
Lynn's just saying, Kat just had to say, BOMA has helped me immensely to keep relevant and regular posting on social media. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Lynn. I'm super stoked that we're able to help, and do sing out if you have any other questions. Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So look, we'll leave it there. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, of course, and if you do have any questions, please do reach out and let us know. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.
Cheers, Kat.